Welcome back to the Daily Rundown. I'm Dan Morfitt with Ashleigh Talbot and Ayesa Toure. It's now time for Their Something to Say, which gives my guests the chance to rant and rave. So firstly, Ayesa, what is your something to say?
Well, I was talking to someone last night about the fact that technology is making us lazy in a way, in that you can now. When I grew up, we would remember our friends' phone numbers. For instance, we didn't have a phone that we could keep it in. We just remembered our bank account details and things like this. We didn't have a spell checkers, so we used to have to know how to spell things. We didn't have a grammar checkers, this type of thing. We could read an A to Z and work out how to get to a place. We didn't have sat nav, and we didn't have to rely on it and then get lost and then go, oh no, now how do I get there because my sat nav's gone wrong, And it was just the idea that, well, where could it end? I mean, I was talking to Ashleigh about this in the break, and Ashleigh was saying, well, the thing is when I was growing up, my dad made sure that I knew how to do all of these things. So I can, read a map. I can, calculate something. You can use a compass, exactly. Children today, it's like, okay, we can do these things because we were taught them, and the technology came upon us. So we have those skills still, although we might lose them, over time. But children today, are they having those? Do they have those skills? They're growing up with the technology, and they're not being taught in the same way that we were. And I was just thinking to myself, well, where will it end? Will it get to the point where we don't even need to learn anybody else's language, because at some point we'll be able to just speak into our phone, it will translate for us, and we will just say to somebody else, say for instance a bus driver in another country, I want to go here, and it will just tell, say to them.
I've got an app for that. It does that already.
It does it already?
That does it already.
Well,
I had an app. I was on a stag do last week in Barcelona. You talk into the app. It doesn't speak Spanish. It speaks Catalan.
Oh yeah.
And it does it automatically, and it speaks back. So
there you go. So you won't even have to learn somebody else's language to communicate with them. And I was thinking that would be sometime in the future. So well, then where will it end? Where will it end?
I still find it weird now seeing my friends' children go up to the big TV, touch it, and look bemused at why it's not doing anything. They just think it's a big touch screen.
Yeah, and it's nothing.
It's quite nice though, isn't it? Isn't this just technology working? It's nice to walk somewhere, but we've got a bike, but we can get there quicker. We've got a car.
I think it's nice to have the choice. I do agree. I think it's nice to have the choice, but what always worries me is the fact that, is us losing our skills, is our losing our humanness in a way, because it extends to other things. Everything's become so rigid and regimented. When you call, say, for instance, a call centre, or you want to speak to somebody, it's always an automated something. And if you can't manage, to navigate it properly, it will just cut you off. You'll never be. You can't speak to a human. Somebody was telling me about how they were trying to get some benefit, or they'd gone to a benefit office to talk about getting a travel card for an interview, and when they got there, because they didn't have an appointment, they just kept being asked, do you have an appointment? Do you have an appointment? And if you don't, it's almost as if you don't feed in the right information, you feed in the right kind of coin, or the right, you don't give the right question, you cannot get the right answer back. It's almost like we're losing our ability to kind of use our brains to make sense of things. And use our own judgment. That's my something to say.
But all computer programming says the whole world revolves around the nose. If you put rubbish in, you get rubbish out. So how do we put that more human side into it? Is AI the future?
Well, I, for one, welcome our new robotic overlords. No,
bring them on.
I don't think they'd try and kill us, though. I think Terminator had it wrong in that respect, in that the robots probably wouldn't say to themselves, ooh, let's nuke the humans, because that totally won't affect us at all. Electromagnetic. But, leaving that aside.
Geek. I love it.
I'm sorry. I definitely see what you're saying about how you can, because I've had the thought myself, particularly when it comes to stuff like spell checkers and sat navs and stuff. And it's only because I kind of resent the fact that I was forced to learn how to read a map when I was younger, and I can still do that. And, well, although having said that, the last time I went on a long car journey somewhere, it was a right faff going through several towns, and I just thought, right, I'm not going to do the sat-nav thing because it'll direct us through the towns, because that is the shortest route, but it's going to have the most traffic. So I will just draw a map on the A to Z and
Getting
follow
lost
that.
is quite nice. You
No, we
sometimes
didn't,
end
you
up
see.
at a nice pub and, have a
And stop there
nice
for lunch.
Yeah.
Exactly. So sometimes getting lost is sort of part of the journey. But at the same time, you are right, because where's that teaching coming from now and going forward? And because you don't get taught how to read a map in school. I mean, I guess you do if you do the whole Duke of Edinburgh thing and learn, go orienteering.
Well,
and stuff,
I remember being a cub, and orienteering was boring as sin. You read a map, you've got to go and see a little orange flag, and you go, oh look, I found an orange flag. And then you go to the next one, and that was boring as heck. But now you've got geocaching, where you have your phone, and you have your sat-nav on your phone, and you follow clues, and you get there, and you can discover things in the area, and it's quite enlightening. And surely all this technology just gives us more leisure time. We're not fretting about whether we're spelling words wrong if we've got a spell checker. We're not fretting about having to read a map 5 days in advance when the thing on our phone will tell us where to go, how fast we can go, and if there's problems en route, it'll take us another way.
Well, I think it's a case of, it's the old argument, isn't it, of kind of everything in moderation. And I can definitely see where the concern's coming from in terms of skills being lost. But at the same time, when are you going to, I guess, need those skills if they're just kind of there and covered for you? But who knows when you'll be without your sat-nav or without a calculator or whatever. I mean, I used to work for a bank, so I kind of got quite good after school, many years after school, long after the point where I thought, I've never used any of that mathematics GCSE nonsense. I'll never need to use that again. And then I got a job for a bank, and then it turns out, oh, actually, yes, sometimes you do need to know this stuff. Or it's helpful if you've got an idea of it, and then you kind of get the machines to do the heavy lifting. So where does it end? I don't know, because you can't just have a society of, meat puppets wandering around supported by robots doing literally all the work, and all the humans do is just sort of lounge around smearing yogurt on their nipples and drinking wine and saying, well, isn't this lovely?
That sounds like a cracking weekend.
It very much does. In fact, you should come along to my next one. But it was, I'm not sure that's necessarily, is that going to be so bad?
The invite's there now.
Yeah.
Ayesa, are you going to just pull the plug on everything then for a bit? So you're going to arrest
it's
technology?
not to say that it was just something that really started to irk me. The fact that nobody seems to be able to do just like the ordinary stuff anymore. And people are just wandering around with their faces in their phones, trying to work out where they're going, as opposed to have just kind of worked it out, previously with the A to Z, and then just walked. It's just and then I just thought to myself, well, is it going to get to the point where we don't really even need to speak to anybody else or speak in anybody else's language? I mean, it's nice to go to another country, and it's
Talk
civil.
To them through an app.
It's civil. It's human. The idea that you could just go to speak into your phone and then just go like this.
It's amazing.
I think it's rude.
Bizarrely though, I remember all my friends' telephone numbers, their landlines from when I was 12, and I've got 15 friends' phone numbers that are never going to go away. Right, Ashleigh, let's have your something to say on the last daily rundown of this week.
It's on a related subject, but I'm sorry, because I'm kind of coming at this same argument, but from the other direction. So at the weekend, as you and I chatted about last week, Dan, I was at a television festival. Several of the things that were taking place were screenings of web content, essentially, so series that were developed and made and put together by people specifically to put online. They weren't going to pitch it to a channel, they weren't going to try and sell it to Netflix, it was just going to, no, we'll put this on YouTube or we'll host it on wherever. So it was just very interesting to me and several other people really who attended, and we had this discussion whereby, so this is a big old festival, like a proper television festival, so there's stuff being shown on screens, large screens, in a cinema, in one of the venues. So that's an interesting dynamic now, I feel, because you've got this stuff that's completely accessible on your phone, on your laptop, on your tablet, on your desktop or whatever, which is now being shown on a cinema screen, which is kind of the reverse of how it used to work. Previously it was like you were at the cinema first and then, you went home, and if you were lucky, a few months later it would be out on video, and then things changed, and now you can probably go watch something at the cinema and nip home and download it. But it was just a very, very interesting thing to see this kind of technology going kind of the other way from the way it has been all along. And now it's like, is that a hipster thing? Is that an artisan thing? Are we looking a bit more backwards as the world becomes more technological?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably my kind of personality, and I do like, and I've always liked the retro type ways of doing things. Like you say, I love the old cinemas. I lament the loss of our gorgeous little, picture houses, and now we're all being deafened in these massive, multi-screen complexes. And I think people are starting to go, oh, well, how did we used to do it? It was really nice and simple then, and we really quite liked it. We really quite loved it. So I think it is possible that, people are getting a bit fed up with. I think it's also, there's something very soulless. It's like I was saying, just talking into a phone as opposed to a person, and just you learning a few languages and trying to interact with a human being and being human. That's what I worry about, and it's going back to those things. And I think, like you say, sometimes people, I think, probably feel worried, more concerned or lament the loss of the humanity in what we're doing. And I think a lot of the technological things seem a little bit soulless. They seem a little bit flat and two-dimensional.
But by using those technologies, you can showcase more about humanity to more of humanity than was ever possible
This
before.
is true, absolutely.
So you can show all these stories and these character pieces. So the thing that I was specifically there for was a web series about queer and trans women, and sort of dating and life and whatever, which is not something that I would expect to see on a mainstream television channel anytime soon.
It's like a few years ago, a film about queer and trans women would have been banned.
Yeah.
And then if it was available, it would have been available in hush-hush places. And not many people would have been able to have an access to it. Therefore, it would have been underground by its very nature. Now it's open and kids can watch it on their phone. And if they identify themselves with that, that's surely better, because...
Definitely, and it's sort of...
And that's going to happen around the world now.
For the people that don't identify that way as well, it provides that insight that might perhaps have been lacking. So when it's just taking this example and running with it, so the queer and trans women, that might be something that some people don't know much about, simply because that's not who they are. They're, straight people, cisgender people who are just getting on with life, having never had to kind of confront that aspect of their identity in terms of the way they identify or the people that they love. So it's, as well as kind of teasing out the young ones who are receiving the message from seeing these things in the media. It's okay, people like you exist in the world. As well as that, it's also providing people that don't identify that way with, that's what it's like.
Different.
Right. Okay, I never really understood that before. And so with those things, with that technology, we're kind of showcasing...
Yeah,
it's quite nice that we've seen both sides of the arguments with both of you, some things to say. But that's it for now, because, time's getting on. I'll be back with my guest in just a minute for the last bit of the last Daily Rundown of the week, with some of the thankfully, less serious stories of the day. Now, don't go away. See you in a bit.